and the air conditioner craps out, and the temperature of the building rises to 100 degrees, and they're sitting there sweating their cajones off. Yeah, believe me, there'll be plenty of blame to go around, and we'll be one of the people pointed at. Yes.
I have an opinion and I passed it out to all of our people. Can we read it before we get into it?
You want to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Does it impact on this issue?
That's what it's about. Yeah.
Huh?
That's what it's about.
Oh, okay, fine.
Did you get a copy?
I saw something on good architecture.
That's it.
Having been called by the Courier to redesign the Sistine Chapel, I can make use of this. Go ahead, Don.
No, that's it. If everybody reads.
Okay.
And then it's my point of view, not as a member of being an officer, but as a person. Design and all that stuff. And it's just my feeling. And I'm just putting it forward.
Oh, okay.
As a request to have WPRF make the repairs. So it's just a point of that.
You talking about air conditioning specifically?
That's correct.
Okay, well, I don't think the item said repair. I think it said upgrades. Well, that's what I would like to hear the technical piece part of that. What is the problem with the air conditioner? I sat in that room at the WPRF meeting and froze. I mean, my skin was crawling.
Well,
It seemed to be working
There's
fine.
an inability to balance the room.
Oh, okay.
And because of that, I think there has to be a redesign of the ducting and put into something rigid so that they can put dampers on so that they can equalize the whole building.
That's what the $2
So
million.
that's what that talks about.
That's what the $2 million is about, right?
Yes.
Sure, I understand that. Yeah, I understand that very well.
It's just my feeling.
I mean, I can only speak from my experience in a large government building. I used to hear those dampers closing and opening all the time, and there was a zone in every office. It drove that air conditioning system crazy. Go ahead.
Since, this is my personal opinion, okay? Since we're going to do an architectural rendering and designing of an air conditioning system,
That's the 83K.
that's the $83,000. I think what should be brought forward on the table, that once we have that, and it goes out and we actually have a price, rather than making it a 4-year project, what it is, it's done completely, and we finance the whole thing over a 4 or 5 year period, rather than piecemealing, because the way, that makes more sense than trying to do one section at a time. Open everything up, put a whole new system in there that will work, and finance it over a 4 or 5 year
I got
period of time.
No problem with that.
That's
But
my
I don't
suggestion.
think you have the time to do that, to get the current budget. When do you need the budget?
Well,
Within the next couple of weeks, anyway.
well,
You're not gonna get it done in
But-
2 weeks.
you're not gonna have the engineering, you have the engineering study, but you don't know what the system is
I
going to
don't even
cost.
think you're gonna have that. What'd you say, 4 to 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Yes.
So before November, you're not even gonna know what the system is going to cost.
Correct.
So,
Well, I think we have a feeling. Remember, there was a prior study.
I understand that, but according to what we heard, every 60, 90 days, the price goes up $80,000.
Of course it will.
So if 3 years ago, we got a price of 2.5 million, it's now priced close to 3 million.
Yep.
And that's piecemealing it. But we might be able to save if we did the whole system at one time and just finance it. And we could.
Finance it.
Yeah, go out and take a loan.
WPRF should finance it.
No,
It's their project.
I understand
It's
that.
their building.
I understand that.
Obviously, we'll pay for it.
We're
but-
gonna pay for it one way or another.
Right.
So rather than beat things up, why not start at a point?
You still don't care about what the technicals are?
I do, I'm the one that asked for this study.
All right?
And that was 4 years ago, and in 4 years, we're still on the same thing. We don't have an actual design of an air conditioning system, and I know that they have computers and engineers that actually design it, and they can probably come within 5 inches of where everything is going to be. That's what they do, plus or minus a couple of inches. What's 5 inches? Nothing,
Yeah, there's,
okay? but they will design a system that will work, and we'll know what the whole thing is, because if you stretch this out over 4 sections,
Right.
okay, imagine building a building. We're gonna put 4 walls and a roof, and you're gonna live there for a year. Then we're gonna put partitions up, and you're gonna live there another year, and then we'll put the bathrooms in, and then we'll put the electric in. That's what we're doing. Dan, that's what we're doing. We're piecemealing a system that is not functioning.
And if you do it all at once, what is that coupon gonna look like?
Doesn't matter.
You don't care.
Well, we heard that an $8 million
You
project
think
costs
the
five.
people, you think the people will care about a $20 increase?
I'm going by what our treasurer told us. In another building, in another Century Village, they spent $8 million, and in 4 years, it cost $5 a month per unit. So a $2.5 million.
You're talking about,
The irrigation.
upgrading and irrigation.
Right.
Yeah, we
Not
have,
rebuilding.
we have the same
I
proposal.
understand, but my thought is, let's say it's $3 million. So what are we talking, $2.50, $2.75 over a period of 4 years, 5 years?
What?
That's what you're talking about.
Per month, per unit.
I mean, I'm not the mathematician, but I'm giving,
I'd
Yes.
just like to say something, and I'm gonna repeat what I said at your budget meeting. We are looking at a deadline on renegotiating the Millennium Agreement. From my perspective, one of the key issues is what is a capital gain? You just mentioned that Mark said is not, and we've heard their explanation. I think we can eliminate a lot of negotiation down the road, a lot of costs, because I made a motion, which I would be in favor of right now, that has to be settled at some time, that if Mark agrees to the 1/3, 2/3, we don't have to wait for the new Millennium Agreement. We'll do it now and just vote and let it go.
Yeah, and I'm gonna suggest to you, and maybe Monica can enlighten us. I don't think Mark's gonna agree to that.
Well, if he
And I think
doesn't,
you heard that.
I think then I'm gonna be very clear.
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna be very clear. There's no way in hell I would vote for it, for any new agreement, unless that point is settled, or else we're just going around in the same circle and gonna be bitching and bitching for God that we live there our lives for the next 5 or 10 years, and hear it from every single resident that we're not being treated properly, and we're paying for everything to fix up Levy's property. I think it's a key issue in any negotiation for the new Millennium Agreement, and I think if we get over that hurdle now, we'll save a lot of time and money later.
And how do you think you're gonna do that?
Well,
You're talking about a fundamental change in
That's
the
it.
agreement.
that's true, and that's,
Now, you probably never heard H. Irwin. His favorite line is, they can have anything they want, comma, as long as it doesn't cost me money, period.
I heard that elsewhere.
I heard it so many times, it was coming out of my ears.
But, you know, I got oil on my back, it would just roll off my back and my ears.
I know.
Everybody has their position. I don't think there's anybody in this village who thinks we're being taken.
Right.
And I feel my job is to try to do the best I can to accommodate the other residents, which I have been for many years myself. And that, if that's a key issue, the time is to settle it now.
Yeah, and you're gonna be right, you look at the agreement, you're gonna go right through the veneer, you're gonna be in arbitration, you're gonna be hiring lawyers, you're gonna end up in a courtroom. All right? Meanwhile, the purpose of this meeting is not to renegotiate the Millennium Amendment.
I don't think that's a renegotiation.
I
think that's the proper interpretation.
I asked Dan to be here, please, to explain to us, over and above the phrase upgrades, what the technical issues are with the air conditioning. And then I was going to ask you all for a vote. as to whether we should revote the line. Okay? Yes, Ed.
I'd like to make one recommendation. Don went through the trouble of writing this. We're all not architects and engineers. It'll take a few minutes, Don, but I'd like you to read it to everybody.
Why can't you read it to
I-
yourself?
I can, but I don't know if I'm as good as an interpreter. I'm not. I don't think
You have
it's
the
a-
floor.
All right, fine.
I think Dominic should read it.
All right.
Tom, would you like to read it for you?
Sure. The principles of good architecture. Quote, form follows function, unquote, is the principle that satisfies the shape and size of design components that meet and or exceed the elements to properly provide the quantity and quality required throughout methods when applied to both new and renovated structures. With that in mind, when the main clubhouse was damaged in 2004 by Hurricane Francis and Jeanne, the plans were reconfigured to meet the future needs of a modern clubhouse. Unfortunately, self-appointed meddlers concerned with aesthetics over function created a new entity with significant alterations in the number of separated areas without consideration towards the end result that the, quote, existing ductwork required a study that was aimed at satisfying the needs of the resident occupants for both comfortable heating and cooling through properly sized, individually adjusted rigid ducting. The result, 15 years later, without that proper study, aimed at altering the former heating cooling ducting configuration has yet to be properly implemented in a timely fashion with a proper plan executed by the owner-operator, West Palm Recreation Facility, to perform the study and exercise the proper actions to rectify the existing faulty, improperly directed tempered air to meet the needs of the occupants, the residents of Century Village, West Palm Beach, Florida. Deliberations by the officers of UCO regarding whether or not a properly functional ducting system would be the responsibility of the owner or the end user to finance the replacement of the new ducting with electronically controlled dampers to manipulate the correct volume, humidity, and temperatures required in the array of classrooms, offices, party room, theater, and connecting corridors and reception area has yet to be resolved. That's it.
All right, just on the record, Bob has just informed me that he's recording since we're not able to record. Recording on his telephone. All right, everybody got that? Yes?
It's right there.
All right. Can't record people without telling them. All right. Can we hear from Dan now?
Absolutely.
All right. As I said, the WPRF budget draft simply says upgrades, doesn't really say a lot. So why should we spend $600,000 at this point? That's really the issue here.
Okay. Just what Dom has just related to you here, I wanna just further go into this. Because it wasn't properly designed back in the hurricane 2005, we spent literally thousands and thousands of dollars, okay, trying to make and piecemeal this thing to make it so that we didn't have water falling out of our fixtures. And this was known 15 years ago, okay? We've been, over the years, approximately 3.5 years since we did this study, okay, informing you, okay, that we have a problem inside that clubhouse with humidity control, okay? Going to the agreement, okay, it's your responsibility to maintain that. We've mentioned this to you over and over, okay? So fighting this issue now, okay, knowing that the air conditioning is a big number, okay, which we've known it was going to be for many years, okay? The study that was done, okay, basically tells you the cost, what we have to do, okay, to get this building under control, to balance it, to put the proper ductwork, everything that Dom has said here, okay, is in this study. And it's been in front of the board for over 3 years, okay? I'm gonna say one more thing on this. I have to now because of what's going on, and it's all about legalities and all, for everybody's sake, okay, is that I had a problem in the staff's offices, okay, where I've done mold testing, okay, and air quality testing, okay? Came back positive to the degree that I've never seen in any of the clubhouses before.
What does that mean?
Where?
Positive for what?
Mold.
Huh?
Mold.
Mold,
I have, my duty as as a safety officer, plus my responsibility to, the property, was to get the testing done and do the corrective actions that have been taken to make sure that our employees.
It would have been useful to have that information.
Well, this is now, just happened within the last, 3 weeks, if I'm
All
not
right.
mistaken, okay? And the cleanup, so I couldn't bring it up until I had the study redone to make sure I had it cleaned up, because I'm looking at possible lawsuits with employees, okay? So the other factor is the health of the residents, okay, when it comes to the party room, okay? I just been informed, okay, just because I took the humidifier out of that room, okay, for not even a week, okay? I have mold growing on the carpet. I have pictures of that right now, and I'm now going to do a study on that, okay, because I have to keep the building, okay? As per the agreement, I have to tell you these things because we have now waited to the point where the system is slowly continuing to fail. The air conditioning systems are 20, some of them are 20, if not plus years. Okay, so if you wanna continue to keep saying to me, you know, even if we piece this, 83,000 is only the first phase, okay? I think the total, I don't know what it was exactly for the whole thing of engineering that whole building. It's up in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay, to get this thing rectified. The problem that we have inside there, why we wanna do the party room is because we were in there. The smell is atrocious. It's just basically so moldy inside there. I have pails, and we've said this before, pails of water coming out of there every single day with the humidifiers.
Yeah.
The air conditioning system is not returning it properly and doing the proper, dehumidification that it needs to do.
It's cycling, you're
Right.
saying.
Prior to when this building was actually put back together, nobody took into consideration, like Don is saying, they left it. I looked at reports before my time, in the 1980s, where you had humidity problems, okay? The opportunity that you had in 2005 to correct those things, but again, because it was not brought to the attention of proper people, other than, like he's mentioning here, to beautify, instead of actually structurally modifying the air conditioning system, that's where you had to do it. It was basically open, and it was basically properly done. So now this engineering study was done to meet those requirements, but it's a costly thing, because now we have to get up and open up everything again, okay, to try to get to the ductwork, you know? And then to redo these pieces of equipment that have been there for over 20-some years, if not close to 30.
Dan, is there any, indicator that code enforcement should be called in on this?
At this point right now, it's past that point. It's amazing to me that some of the things even passed with code, you know, back in that era, okay, when we were redoing it. Again, remember, when I was brought in here, I was only brought in for the theater. I could not and tell you that I brought every engineer to do the theater properly, okay? The air conditioning in the theater works properly, okay? The units are actually, even were bought, and I had to deal with that because they were bought prior to me coming on board. They were oversized for that theater, okay? So, again, there was not a lot of, again, I don't know who was involved, and again, I don't wanna put that blame, but there was not a lot of work done. They just put it back exactly how it was, okay? And even at that, they forgot to put ductworks in some of the areas, you know, to help the system. So we don't even have air in certain areas of the clubhouse, okay? So
I would just make a comment at this point. I'm sure you all don't need reminding that the recommendations of committees are purely advisory. And if the technical indicators are such that the building is not safe, I'm not sure I see what the choices are. I mean, I have no problem with Fausto's recommendation that it be done at once, but it's gonna be a major kick in the coupon. I wanna remind you, nominally, for quick mental arithmetic, every $100,000 is approximately $1 a month per unit. Right? Roughly. Every $100,000 is $1 a month per unit. It's 97 blah, blah, blah.
Right. May I address Fausto's recommendation, and I think Ed perhaps suggested this before. When we talk about getting a loan to do the work, would not be as big of an impact on the coupon as you think, because you would have presumably a year where you're paying interest only. Interest rates are very low now. Then you would be able, once you complete the project, to spread the repayment of that loan over, say, 2 or 3 years. And that's what's going in the coupon, is the repayment of the loan, so that it's spread out, so it's not this huge chunk in the beginning.
Did you folks consider this approach?
We've done this recently in Pembroke Pines. We borrowed $5.7 million in Pembroke. And that's exactly what we're doing now. We started repaying the loan last November.
Okay.
We've done it in Boca before.
Yeah.
Plus, you have all this reserve money, so we could do a detailed analysis once we knew what the cost would be. Some of the money could be funded from the reserve, and the balance, we could get a loan.
So we could make the case that this is the emergency for which we were reserving the reserve for.
Well, initially, that's one of the main reasons we started the reserve, was for the
What's in
air
there?
conditioning.
What's
$2 million.
2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Would that pay for the whole thing?
No,
No,
Yeah.
No.
they're not gonna be, first of all, I don't know if they can accomplish the whole thing in 1 year. Second of all, while I originally turned down your recommendation for the reserve, I'll go back to the other thought is, you could take it out of the reserve, it wouldn't affect the coupon, but I would look to have a reduction to the contribution to the reserve. A reserve is meant for major things, and therefore, you would accomplish 2 things. You wouldn't increase the coupon, okay? But you could also reduce the coupon by reducing the contribution currently to the reserve.
Sounds like a
I
dog.
would never recommend using the majority of your
This
money
is only
for
a
this
portion.
project, right?
This
I'm
is
just
only a
saying.
portion.
Now, wait a minute. I'm hearing 2 different stories. I just heard that there was not enough money in the reserve to do this project.
To the entire project.
the entire,
Right.
Our prior project is 2
It's a patch.
2.4 million, I think it was.
that's what it was.
Right, initially.
I happen to think that patching is a very big mistake. And that's why I kind of resonate with what Fausto is saying. If we're gonna do it, we ought to do it, the whole thing. You know, we just ought to get it done, right? But the problem, you spend the entire reserve pot.
No,
No.
And,
no, absolutely not.
We're not talking about that.
all right.
However, I'm sorry, however, I think we're making a mistake of doing the whole thing now. I really am stuck with the point that from a equity standpoint, we should not be paying for the whole thing.
Okay, we can't renegotiate the agreement at this table. The
Well-
agreement is as the agreement is. You wanna get a lawyer and fight this?
No, I want them to consider it without a lawyer.
Why
And I
should
do-
he?
Why should he? Because,
Well, can I just say something, because I think you, just real quick on this, no,
But-
what Monica was saying with the reserve monies, okay, the cost of the engineering is it's $500,000, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look back in here if I'm going through there, but for the whole project, it's $500,000, okay? By the time I get this all going, and it's another 2 months, okay, before I get even the bids down going, you're looking at another 4 months, okay? And then, if you're gonna decide, you're still negotiating, whatever it is here, but if you get the engineering, you're gonna know what the cost is gonna be of the project. Right. Now, I understand some of them don't, and you think we could battle this out and you go with Mark and who's gonna pay for it or what. I'm just telling you right now, it's been 3.5 years, and on my side, okay, looking at it, okay, it's been neglect, all right? And if it gets to the point where my employees or your residents, okay, get sick, okay, there's gonna be so I'm letting you know now, because I said to her, I'm not playing no more, I'm gonna tell you the truth on this matter here. because every time you come back to me and say we piecemeal, we brought you a package 3.5 years ago, okay? I would even mention with the roof guys, okay, at Hastings. Mentioned, let's do the whole thing. The problem is I can't even get $200,000 for what, it's been 2.5 years before I could get that project done where I had gold coming through the, you know, the sheetrock falling. So you gotta, and it's not all you hear because it changes, the board changes, and when the board changes, different opinions come upon
Yeah,
going
of
through.
course.
But I'm telling you, you need to stay focused on what this is. Whatever you're trying to say to go after Mark Levy is something else. I can't even speak for Mark
No,
Levy on that
no,
portion.
Of course not.
All I can tell you is that I'm telling you right now that I am kind of frustrated because I hear things, and if you look at how I deal with things on the other committees, I tell them right out front what's going on. The cost is the cost, okay? You fight that afterwards, but here's to maintain your property and your value of your property. And even if it's marked, this piece of property here is what makes your values of your condos.
Right.
So, but I'm telling you right now, there's a health hazard, okay, that we continue to keep letting it get worse and worse and worse. And now that I've had, take a humidifier out for 3 days, 4 days out of a room, okay, and I get mold on the doggone carpet, it's telling you something's definitely wrong there, okay? And I'm not gonna bring people back into that thing until it's repaired. And we have the right to repair that thing, okay, all right, as part of the agreement.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you're presenting technical information that would allow you as the building, I'm gonna use the word owner, I understand about Benison, to move ahead plus or minus anything that comes out of any committee, all right? You're gonna run into a code enforcement problem, they're gonna shut you down.
But David, what I'm telling you is that we've been trying to work it out with you. It would have been mine, I could have just said, no, I'm gonna do this, we're gonna take it out of here, okay, as our agreement, because it's your responsibility to maintain the property as per the agreement. If you wanna change this agreement, that's down the road, but the agreement that we're in right now, okay, that I have not been forceful about it, okay, because now that I'm seeing that I have possibility of lawsuits from my employees, and also a health hazard to people that are gonna open this thing up again because it's been standing still. What happened was is that every day they were vacuuming inside there, every day we were using the doors. Now that we closed it off, okay, all of a sudden we're seeing even more of it, okay? So, that's what's happening. And now, the design is here, okay? The only way you can get the actual price of this cost of this whole property, this project, is to do the design.
Given that Mark Levy said to me on the telephone, and I quote, "This air conditioning project has to be done," unquote. Why don't you just go ahead and do it? Huh?
I've had my hand up for 5
Yes,
minutes now,
Bob, go
please.
ahead.
All right, I think it's a real simple solution. You take half of the reserves, you got 2 million in there now, take half of the reserves, no reduction in the contribution monthly. All right, so you still keep that 57,000 going in?
52,000.
52,000 a month going in, so you build up your reserves again, all right? Take out a loan, and let's get this thing done. It's real simple.
Yeah, we hear you.
I think in the next 12 months, we'll never have an opportunity like this
That's
to
exactly
do
right.
the work now.
That's exactly right.
We're gonna have the lowest number of people populating the village in the winter and so forth.
Right.
So while everything is calm and quiet, this is the time to address it.
Money is cheap now.
We just did a major project in Boca that just approved, okay, cause the theater's not gonna be, for the first time, they're actually shutting that theater. That theater is the most, of all the Century Villages, that's the one that's used and gets the most uses. For them to actually shut it down and say, we're gonna do a major renovation of it, knowing that it's the best time to do it, they decided there too.
They just voted yesterday to spend $1.5 million to renovate their theater.
Who's that?
I
In
will-
Boca, so they're not gonna reopen their theater for quite some
I
time.
will just say, it's very irritating to me. You know, I didn't sign the original agreement, but the agreement is as the agreement was. I can't get Kurt Weiss back here to reconsider it. He's long gone. I've even entertained thoughts when that budget is given to me to sign to make a pen and ink change and put that 600K back in. and you can come ahead and sue me till the cows come home. You know, we can't play games like this. You tell me that the clubhouse is going to be crawling with mold? My God. Stuart, you've been waiting.
Our responsibility is to the people who live here in Century Village.
Right.
And the concept of having mold in there is something that we can't tolerate. The fact that money is cheap and we could take a loan out at one of the lowest interest rates you'll ever get. So we are partially justifying what we're doing by borrowing the money, because the money is cheap. If we wait, it's going to cost us more. If we wait, it's going to possibly, people will be sick and we have lawsuits which will cost us a hell of a lot more. I understand that the confusion over what capital investment is and everything else, I know we're living with that and there's nothing we could do. It's a fait accompli, that's the way it is right now. But to not exercise proper judgment, it's morally the right thing to do, because that's what we were elected to do, is to represent the people and to do right by them. And I agree with what you said and everything, that the dire consequences are there and we can't have that happening, and we have to go ahead and do the whole thing from beginning to end and get it done, and that's it, and it's off our plate forever. And we have ways to spread it out, and a buck here and a buck there on people's coupon. I don't really care.
Hold on. Donald.
All right, just a thought. The cost of maintaining this Frankenstein air conditioning system that we have, I believe it's running into hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I'm going to give you one example real quick. Dan mentioned that there are pails of water being collected with portable dehumidifiers. When he says pails, we're talking about 55-gallon brute garbage cans that are being dumped 2 to 3 times a day. I got this from Kevin, right? 3 times a day at $15 an hour, spending $45 a day just to dump pails of water. That comes to $16,000 a day. Add to that, even doing carpet cleaning because we got surface mold on the carpets. Add to that the repairs you're doing. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Towards what? Towards nothing. You know, there's a time where you got to take the car to the junkyard. You spend too much time on it.
Throw in potential lawsuits from sick employees.
Right, you're talking about young, fit employees worrying about their health. What happens when poor Mrs. Lasky starts going back to the, with the breathing problems and this and that?
Maintenance of a safe workplace.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's like washing, excuse me to say, it's like washing a pot. You wash the inside of the pot, but you never wash the outside and the bottom. So it's half done, and we're wasting our time. It's either do it right, or the whole place is going to fall apart, and it'll cost us 10 times the amount. And what loss, and we live in a litigious society, give somebody an opportunity to increase their social security, like you've always said, and that's what's going to happen. And it just common sense says, I know that we have to do it. And to get hung up on the definition of a capital improvement right now and not do it is foolish. We just have to do what is right. And I don't think that many people in Century Village, regardless of how the increase of the cost will be to them, will complain, since everybody uses the
Once it's explained, of course.
yeah, but it's common sense.
Right.
If you don't do it, you're not going to have the use of the facility. And so we have been elected to do what we think is the right thing, and we have, right here. We all agree what the right thing is. You made your case. I can't dispute anything you've said, and I go along with it. And I think that we should do what is necessary, decide right now, and to make the decision to go ahead with whatever studies that will cost and whatever it is, to do everything.
You got the studies, you got everything. All you need
Is
is,
it
I need the
okay?
engineering plan.
you need
Right.
the engineering plans, and then it's gotta go out to bid. And I would say that if we started today, we're probably looking at 9 to 12 months before the system is new, up and running.
Right now, the way getting county is and getting the permits is good 3 months of wait time.
Right.
But if you look at it, I look at the engineering, anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks, okay?
Right.
Now I'll add a little bit more because it's the whole building.
Then you need
okay,
the
I'll do
permits,
that,
then you
so-
gotta,
and
you
we
gotta
put it-
make the
as soon as-
system.
As soon as we get the permits in, the engineering and everybody's okay with this, we could put those right away in for permitting, okay? We don't even have to put the contractor yet, but we got it in for permitting, you know? And then we put it out for bid, which will take probably about a month. We give them to analyze, come in, do studies. We have a board like we did last time with the electrical, and we did this with the electrical system, you know? So that was a major thing when we closed and we had the whole.
Still
place
looking
for
9 to
everything,
12
you know?
months.
Yeah.
From
The
start
need
to finish.
overrides
All right,
everything.
one thing at a time.
And it has to be
Hold on,
done.
guys. Everybody's got something to say. Ed has his hand up first. Go ahead.
There's no question that I'm in favor of doing it all at once. What you were referring to yesterday is I was talking about what Deerfield Beach did for their irrigation system. They financed $8.5 million. They were saving on utility costs. As far as how it's financed, I think we should look at two things. One, the right thing to do is do it all at once. And the next thing is how we do it, and do it most prudently, financing it. Now, when you do a system like this, is it all contracted out at one time?
Yes.
Is it progress payments?
We could set it up in whatever way, especially in
Well,
this
if
type
it's
of a
progress
contract with the.
payments, you could set up your financing. Were you involved in helping Deerfield Beach, and they did that on their own?
We've not been in Deerfield in 7 years.
You haven't been in Deerfield? I thought, oh, well,
Right.
because
We
they
were.
bought you out, right?
Yeah, the owners, the residents, bought out the
people.
owners
Well,
just recently.
I would definitely wanna do it, but I'd like to do it on the most prudent basis. I wouldn't wanna empty our treasury, you know. First of all, let me be clear, we have a reserve fund for just this. Not this project, but that's why you have a reserve fund.
For emergencies.
Right.
Unforeseen emergencies.
Unforeseen, the question is, what other, in my mind, what other, if we use 70% of this or 50%, what other unforeseen emergencies of this magnitude do you foresee, Dan?
Hurricane blowing the roof off the clubhouse.
Well, we
Then
do
you've
have
got
a separate
insurance cover.
reserve
You have a
for
separate
the
reserve for that.
windstorm.
I don't think that's something that should be quoted off the top of our head. What we're covered for, what we're not covered for, should determine how much of the reserve we use and how we replenish it. You could get the reserve down to nothing if there's nothing in the wind. Now, if we do this, that takes a major portion of what we're reserving for.
But there is a separate windstorm deductible reserve outside of this $2 million of $800,000 or so.
Right.
So that's an additional
Yes,
reason.
yes.
So actually, we have $2,800,000.
Mhm.
It's nice to have a little money under the carpet.
Well, that's a hurricane deductible.
Hurricane deductible.
And we've worked very hard to maintain that for a long
Right,
time.
that if we had a catastrophic hurricane and the majority of the recreation property were destroyed,
Right.
we could be looking at a potential deductible of 1.1 million. So we're a little bit short, but never say never.
We've worked
but, you
very
know,
hard.
We have.
Yes.
That,
We've come a long way.
that money was initially the money that was left over from the shoreline project.
Right.
And when the shoreline project was finished, we took that money and the committee made the decision to set it aside for hurricane deductible, and they built on it over the years until we started the contingency.
I'd like to put a motion on the floor.
Wow. All right, Bob, go ahead.
My motion is to replace the HVAC system at the clubhouse by using 1/2 of the current WPRF reserves, plus WPRF to obtain the loan for the remainder, and no reduction in the contribution to the monthly deposit to the reserves.
All right, I think I understand your motion. Is there a second to that motion? For discussion purposes, I'm gonna second that motion.
Thank you.
All right? Now, is there discussion on this? Wow.
Yes.
Yes, Fausto.
The discussion is, why would you wanna deplete half of your reserves, not knowing what the total cost of the project is?
I think we know.
You don't know.
You've gotta study.
Can I just say something?
Go
On
ahead.
the order of $2 million.
I think, like anything else, we've done multi-million-dollar projects in all the century villages, okay? So we're not unfamiliar on an 8 million or 5 million, 7 million. In this case here, you definitely need to do the engineering study, okay? Because before you get the loan out, okay, you pretty much want to do that. So $500,000, okay? Depending on, I have to look at this, I don't have, I wasn't prepared to see the whole engineering.
Is that what
okay?
the line item is for? That 600K line item?
No, that was just
is
for the
for
first-
the engineering and the construction costs.
Drawing,
Phase
first
one.
phase.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
so you have an engineering cost, okay, of the whole property, the whole building here. You get that together, okay, you put that out for bid, that's where you're going to get your cost.
So that has to
okay?
be done first.
Right,
Yes.
So
at least the
then,
engineering study.
the engineering, the drawings and, the engineering costs that we have in the budget now of the 83,000, that was only for phase one,
one.
right?
Yes.
So, do you have any sense of what that cost would be for the entire clubhouse?
It's, I'm not 100% quite sure, but I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500,000, if I'm not mistaken.
On top of the 600K.
I think from start to finish, you're gonna, without knowing until they take stuff down, you're looking at $3 million. And you're looking 9 to 12 months worth of work.
All right.
I mean, to me, that's why to lock ourselves into putting down $1 million doesn't make sense, because you don't know what the end project is going to be.
David?
Yes, Ed.
If I'm not mistaken, wait for David.
I'm sorry,
If I'm not mistaken, just before, Dan estimated this project at $4 million, not $3 million.
Oh, we didn't.
No.
But how much did you say the whole engineering study alone is gonna cost us?
right now, the engineering study, which we're looking at it right now, that's why, because we just.
The engineer
No, the whole
was
thing.
$30,000 or something like that, wasn't that the
No.
original?
No, the whole job, okay, was $2 million. I don't have that number in front of me.
Okay, right here.
Okay,
2.7.
It was $2,465,000.
Okay.
in that 2 million, I think between $400,000 to $600,000 was the engineering, okay, in that, okay? So I will look at this because I just did a contract, we just did a contract. And we had to deduct of that cost to the 83 to do the first stage, okay, so, if you can give me a few minutes, I'll look at this real quick here.
All right, Donald.
All right, I'm hearing the motion of, we're gonna deplete our reserves, we're gonna go to the bank for a loan, but we're not going to raise the.
I didn't say deplete. You said take half of
Okay,
the
that's
reserve.
depletion.
Yes, it's a reserve. Okay.
Then we're going to the bank,
Reserves
then
before.
we're going to the bank for a loan, and we're not gonna increase the, when is this car gonna run out of gas? How could you do both?
We're not going to decrease the contribution to the reserve. That's what his motion was.
My motion
We're gonna
says
need-
not to reduce.
To the reserve, okay, I understand, thank you.
Reserves, which is what Ed.
But there will be an increase in the coupon, we're paying off a loan, and we're replenishing our reserves.
Yes, there will be an increase in
Replenish the
coupon.
reserve.
All right, I understand, thank
We
you.
cannot escape the increase in
It's not like this 600K in the line item is gonna break the bank. It's nominally $5 to $6 a month per unit. That's what it is. And I don't think that's gonna drive anybody out of here. Ed,
Well, what I heard is that at the end of I'd like to comment on two things. One, I think it's too early to say that you won't reserve the contribution to the reserve. Number two, I thought I heard that on the current budget as it now stands, there was going to be approximately a $4 reduction. Am I correct?
Who said that?
I don't know, I think Monica did it.
That was at the.
What was your estimate of a reduction if we didn't change anything right now?
It was $4 and change, I believe.
That's what I
Yeah.
heard.
But that was without the lease.
So you put the 600K back in,
Wait, hold it.
there's a $2 increase.
That's what I'm trying to.
No,
Putting
no.
the 600 back has no effect on the coupon if we're using
That's
reserve
what I'm
money.
trying to
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
all right.
You have a projected $4 decrease, right? If we
Right.
go ahead and fund the first part, you could propose to do the whole thing, but you're not gonna do the whole thing at one time. You could have a $2 increase and take care of the first part. Now, while the budget is only reviewed one time, which budgets could be reviewed more than one time, we then can come back to the table of how to fund the balance when we know what it's really gonna cost.
Now, Ed, I think Monica is saying if we take it from the reserve,
Yeah,
it will have no impact on the
I
coupon.
think that's wrong, quite frankly, and I'll tell you why. A reserve is for what we're doing.
No, you think it's wrong to do it?
I think it's wrong. In other words, why do we have a reserve? We have a reserve for something like this.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think I said at the beginning, I disagreed with you, but I've come back after this, that I agree with you, okay? That we take the 600K out of the reserves,
Right?
okay? And
Well, that means no impact on the coupon.
Right, however, you can then still level the budget to zero, and you already have $4 being put in.
Okay.
In other words, you could go apples to apples. If we went this way, we changed nothing, we would get a $4 decrease according
Well,
to.
that was an estimated number. I've got to revisit it after our meeting the other day. Actually, I have the budget in my car. I meant to bring it in.
Well, I mean, unless it could go up or it could go down, right? You're right. But if it's still an excess, we can take that excess and apply it to the current contribution to the reserve. What I'm saying is you could do the whole
I know what
thing.
you're saying, level it off so that there's no increase or decrease and put it toward reserves.
Exactly.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
And that way,
That makes less sense than getting a loan and paying off the loan.
you're gonna take it out somewhere. This way it has no impact and you're actually increasing the reserve.
I know
And
this is not
anything
what
that-
we're talking about, but, and this is entirely your decision, of course, but I am concerned that the committee will get some major pushback this year if there's not some type of a reduction on that coupon,
Well, I think
honestly.
we can tell them it's gonna come from one side or the other side.
Well, I understand that, I do believe a lot of your residents are looking for a
Well, then
reduction,
we
even if it's small. I mean, that's what we're hearing, we get calls on a daily basis about residents complaining that because they don't have the use of the facilities, they expect a reduction.
Go ahead.
My personal feeling is if there's a reduction, it should go, because this project is not gonna be started until next year, and it won't affect anything until the following year.
So
If we take a-
well, that's the point. I keep
That's-
hearing, you keep beating around it. If you
Yep.
take the money from the reserve,
Right.
the reduction will still be in place.
That's what I'm saying. But
Right.
the actual construction of this is not going to start until next
Understood.
year, right?
Understood.
And then we'll be able to do, if we take out a loan, because I know that it's gonna be paid in phases. We could take other money, that's what I'm saying, not to deplete the reserves that we have, because you might have to start making payments for 3 months, 4 months next year, maybe from October to December, before we have to start paying the loan off, which will put it into the 2022 budget to pay it off.
You're back to the concept of doing the whole project.
You
at
gotta do
once.
you have to do the whole project.
He's right.
I mean,
Can't
the
pussyfoot
reason,
around.
I'm the moron that asked for the study, am I right now? Because we were saying, well, we gotta fix this, we gotta fix this, this is 20 years old, this is 30 years old. So we said, well, I said, Dan, well, how much is it going to cost to redo the whole system? And he said, that makes sense. And he came back with that 3.5 years ago. And for the last 3.5 years, we've been patching, like Donald said, the air conditioning system next year. You gotta make the step. You have several things to consider. If, God forbid, if somebody does get sick and you're taken to the hospital, whether it's a worker or a unit owner, and they find out that a person got some kind of a mold, upper respiratory from mold, that building is gonna be shut down. You have no use of it. Now, we have to be in front of that curve, because if that happens, we can sit down and say, listen, we have the engineering study, we have the contract, and we're in the process of doing it. Now the building doesn't get shut down because we're being proactive.
Guys, a solution has been presented,
Yes,
which leads to a reduction in the coupon.
right.
What more is there to argue and
There is no
discuss?
argument. There is no argument.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Yeah.
Dan and I just went through the 4 phases here with the initial estimated cost of the engineering for the design and the construction drawings. It's coming up close to 300,000. We think we should bump it up to at least 350 to be on the safe side.
Everything's going
Perhaps
up.
instead of instead of the 83,000 that we put in the budget, it's already been approved to be used by reserve funds. Perhaps we put 350 in there so that we can get all of this done right away and be ready at some point
Okay.
later in the year to
When
start
you
the
bring this,
project.
can you make budget you're gonna present, at the operations committee reflect this?
I can.
I can get the
And-
actual for the whole project.
And we
but I
have to
not done that.
dispose of Bob's motion, all right? Is
I don't like that word.
Rescind.
dispose of, not get rid of, you know,
Yeah,
Address.
I'm just kidding.
address Bob's motion,
Address it.
all right? I seconded it just for the purpose of this discussion.
Right.
So why don't we vote on it? I think, yes, David, yeah.
I'm sorry to ask it, and I don't want a whole lot of discussion for everybody, and I need a couple answers in my head here. If we're gonna take out a loan, who takes out the loan?
WPRF.
Okay, so it has no effect on the individual units here if WPRF defaults on the loan.
That is correct, cause
Okay, I
Mark
don't need
Lee
any
would
more
have to
explanation.
personally guarantee the loan.
Okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
And are we talking about closing the entire clubhouse? Or are we gonna actually close parts of it?
It will be in sections, just like we did the electrical. The electrical was a little different because we had to bring in outside air conditioning.
But
you
it
know?
sounded like everything was gonna be closed here.
Yeah, it could, you know, you'd have to have a massive crew then, you know, that would even be, you would do it in the sections that are, you know, as you, one section per section per section, you know.
My next question was, when you're talking about the engineering costs, is this also gonna include the engineer to be on site? Or is that gonna be an additional charge later?
Contract monitoring.
I'm gonna get that all together on this price, that's why I'm looking at it right now, okay? At this point right now, it basically it says that, yes, it'll be construction meetings, generating meeting minutes, the consulting portion of it, yes. It's included in this price, but I'll verify that all in writing, you know?
And
He's
final
saying he
comment
thinks
for
he can
me.
have a more definitive number by
I'll give
first
you,
of the week,
yeah,
maybe?
first of the
I know
week.
that's short notice,
but it's a, you know, it's just getting them back, because things have, I know we've waited, and it increased right now, this engineering fee, okay? So, but what I'm looking here, I wanted to go through this real quick so you just get an idea from what it was back in the old, when we first started here.
One more,
Go ahead, Dave, sorry.
we shot ourselves in the foot last year when I was one of the few people that opposed a reduction in the contribution to the reserve fund. We should have kept it at $7, what was it,
Nine.
We kept it at $9 last year, but we reduced it, so we sort of shot ourselves in the foot by doing that reduction.
See, that's why I'm not going for what Ed is suggesting, because to imagine that this is the last major emergency we're gonna run into is folly. That's a 50-plus-year-old building, and there's gonna be other issues. I would be amazed if that building wasn't being eaten alive by termites, but it's neither here nor there.
We're pretty good with that.
Huh?
I have to say, we're pretty good with that.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
When were you last up in the attic?
Actually,
A couple of weeks
I had
ago.
a couple of weeks and I almost passed out, okay? So-
All right, look, we have a motion on the floor,
Thank you, that's all I have.
and we're in discussion. Ed, is this about the motion?
Well, I think we decided to turn the motion down. It was about,
No, we haven't.
well,
No,
I thought I heard it. If we accept the motion, we're accepting.
no. I think we have another solution, but we wanna have a vote in the motion just for protocol's sake. I think the motion tries, what's the movie, The Bridge Too Far? I think it tries to do too much in one gulp. So,
Did it was brought out at the last meeting that you, oh, okay, no, what about, I was gonna say Teddy.
yes, Tom?
Just one question of Dan. Are we gonna have to bring in trailers of air conditioning to supplement what we're shutting down?
No, because until, that's what I'm saying, that we would do it in sections, because we're not gonna be affecting, we have valve turn off, so if we're replacing units, we can still keep areas,
Okay.
cooled down.
Fine.
Like I said, it wasn't like the electrical where I had to bring everything in, because we set the whole thing and had to put a temporary.
All right, can we have a vote on Bob's motion?
Sure.
If we can have the motion read again.
Yes.
Motion is to replace the HVAC system at the clubhouse using 1/2 of WPRF's reserves plus WPRF to obtain loan for the remainder, and no reduction in contribution to deposits to the reserves. It's been motion made by me, seconded by
All right.
David.
Yeah, I seconded it.
David,
I don't see anything really wrong with it. I'm gonna say yes.
Ed Grossman,
No,
Dominic,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Fausto,
no,
David,
Yes.
and I'm yes. Mary?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeses, 2 noes, motion carries.
All right. So you're gonna have to adjust the budget a little more, right?
Thank you.
no.
I don't have anything to adjust the
There's nothing
budget
to
with
adjust
right
the
now, I
reserve.
don't have numbers, right? I mean, we don't know what the cost is gonna be until this engineering is done, so.
All right, what are we gonna do? Let me be a little more blunt. What are we gonna do with the $600,000 line item?
But we're not gonna do nothing at this point, because, the only thing is, at this point, it doesn't even increase the budget if we're taking the reserve money for the engineering.
We
Exactly.
should put the
So-
total engineering cost in that line item to replace the 600,000.
Okay, so it's gonna go away. It's not gonna go away, but it's gonna be paid for
Yes.
out of the reserve.
Yes,
So
it's a wash.
what are you gonna do with the budget that I have to sign?
Well, that's what I'm gonna do. That number that was 600,000 will be whatever Dan comes up with, 350,000. Reserve money will cover that, so it's a wash on the budget.
And there will
The
still
only
be a
thing I could do, and it would just be a total shot in the dark, a wild ass guess for anything, would be to try to attempt to estimate what interest costs would be. But the interest costs could be funded by the reserve as well.
So we're still looking at this $4 a month reduction, $4
Mhm.
reduction.
Excuse me,
I think people would love that.
excuse me.
Yes.
Why do we have to have a reduction?
In our original, what we did up until today, wasn't the 83,000 out of the operating rather than the?
It's reserve, it was
Was
reserve
reserve.
being covered by
So
reserve.
really, nothing has changed from an economic standpoint.
Correct.
Don, you had something?
No, I don't, why are we worrying about giving people money back? The cost
Because-
of bananas has gone up 10 cents. a pound.
I appreciate what you're saying, but I think someone else said it. There's been a significant reduction in services, and I think there's a push for a reduction in the coupon because of that. I mean, there are a lot of services that are not available.
Sure.
It's just a thought.
But there are a lot of people who aren't here taking advantage of it.
Yeah, that's
What
true.
isn't here?
And they're not coming back for a while.
That's true.
David?
I agree with you, but there's also gonna be a reduction in services once we start doing this project.
Probably, yes. I agree. I think all the more reason that there should be a reduction in the coupon if possible. How's that?
I would like to make a motion that we put $400,000 out of reserve to replace that $600,000 that we cut out to budget for the architectural engineering study. Dan's guessing at 300, 350. I'm saying take $400,000 out of reserve.
Would that include that 83?
Yeah, that 83,
Yes.
yeah, 320,
Yeah,
320 plus 80.
Could I just say something, because I could get this figure, I could go back to the engineering part, I should be able to get it by Monday,
But with 400,000 covered.
It's gonna be more, I'm just gonna give you an accurate, number.
I'm just
We
saying.
put 50,000 on top of what we saw here, because we saw the increase on the first stage already. So, but like I said, by Monday, I will send you what we have from the engineering firms.
I just wanted to make that motion to cover you so that you're covered.
You wanna repeat your motion?
My motion is to put $400,000 out of the reserves to do the air conditioning, engineering, and whatever permitting, whatever else you need to move the project along.
In this COVID-19 thing, what are permit acquisitions looking like?
Ooh, very long.
Months.
For $5,500, you can get it expedited.
This is-
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
W- This is WPRF.
You have no choice but to
Yes.
say that you can do it today, because they're not allowing you to go in there anymore, but that's what they do, they're charging us for bringing it through there, because there are only certain people by appointment to go in there.
It would be to remove that 83,000 that we approved and make that 400,000 to cover whatever you need.
All right, we got a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Stewart seconds. Ed?
I'm not clear, I thought everything of the 625,000 has been approved to take it out. What is this is this an extra 400,000?
No, the only thing that was approved at our last meeting was to leave the
No.
83,000.
Now, we
He's
just,
saying we'll remove the 83,000 and replace that with the
I
400,000.
thought we just agreed
Yeah, I
for a
think,
lot more money. I mean, I'm getting a little confused.
No.
Wait a second, I'm sorry. Didn't we just agree 600 and some odd $1,000, which was in your budget, was gonna come out of the reserves? Didn't we just agree on that? I mean, I could be confused, but we agreed.
No, I-
Well, that number was based on phase one only, and that included the estimated construction costs and everything for phase one. But now that we're talking about doing the entire project together instead of in pieces over 4 phases, this estimated 400,000 that Fausto's asking for would be the cost for the design and the construction drawings for the entire project.
Okay, now, just for clarification.
just one thing, I gotta take a break.
Go ahead.
All right. Fausto, would you just run this until I get back? It's just gonna be and if you vote, I vote yes on, if you finally get to a vote on Fausto's motion.
But if I can explain it to you?
Sure.
We were looking at $600,000
Right.
for a partial air conditioning repair. We've done away with the partial, and I'm putting in $400,000 for the entire job.
You're talking about 400,000 just for the air conditioning, or
For the
400,000?
study,
Study.
for the study,
It's
The
Engineering.
engineering.
design and the drawings.
And what happened to the 625? That's gone,
That's that
That
first
was
phase.
construction costs for
first
phase one.
and that's gone, or is that coming?
That's coming
That's
off
off
for
the
right
table.
now.
That's off the table.
Right.
Until we know what the cost will be for
Right.
the entire phase, and we
Right.
won't know that until all the design and the construction drawings are
Okay,
complete.
that's
Doesn't
clear.
take it, makes
So
sense.
basically, it's 400 grand now,
Mhm.
coming out of the reserve,
Right,
and nothing reduces the proposed excess at this
right,
point.
right, we're not touching anything.
Yeah, okay, that's very good. It
We
clears it
have
up.
to have the money to pay for the,
Right, and that gives you a
study.
little bit of a
We
leeway.
can't do
Right.
Instead
anything
of
till we
making
get.
it,
Well, like I said, I'll get an actual, I got everybody running on it right now, so hopefully.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you to make one change
sure,
up to 400,000?
okay.
Or not to exceed.
Not to exceed $400,000 to be taken out of reserve for the entire air conditioning study at the clubhouse. How does that phrase it?
If you would repeat that again.
Four-
Write this down.
Not to exceed $400,000 for the engineering study
Okay,
for the replacement of the entire air conditioning system for the clubhouse.
entire HVAC system.
So rather than piecemealing, we're doing the whole thing, it encompasses the whole thing.
And we'll know exactly
And we'll
what
know
it costs,
exactly
and
what-
we can move from there. Otherwise, it's a
I just
nickel and
wanna-
poke, and it's a nickel and dime.
Here's how I have it written down.
All right.
Motion, to take, wait a minute. How about the word fund? Fund, not to exceed 400,000 from WPRF reserves to cover engineering, design and construction costs for replacement of entire HVAC system and
It's not construction cost. It's not construction, you're not building anything, all we're doing is an
Design
engineering.
and construction drawings.
Right,
drawings.
right, design and construction drawings.
Have we changed the motion?
No, we're trying to
We're
clarify.
trying to clarify.
Okay.
Just
All right.
I wanted to clarify something, that was put in all the phases of the engineering, okay? So it says consulting engineering fees include design drawings, specifications, construction, administration, site visits, shop drawing reviews, R5 reviews,
That includes the 83K.
construction meetings and generate meeting minutes, so it's.
We're putting it into one package.
It's still about 400K?
That's it, up to
Not to
400,000.
exceed 400K.
Okay. Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
You
get-
got a second on that one?
We had Stewart,
Well, we had Stewart. Yes.
you said yes. Ed
Yes.
Grossman, Dominic,
Yes,
Stewart,
Yes,
Fausto,
Yes,
David,
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Mary's a yes. Unanimous.
I'm a yes.
Mr. Slocum was saying, I didn't know.
Okay,
All right.
motion
thank
carries.
God.
Ed,
Just for clarification, Dan, if we did the entire project with the permits and everything else, which you have no control over the cost, what would you estimate that would be done in its entirety by the end of 2021?
Oh, yeah, I definitely on that, because the majority of the work with the ductwork, like on the first, the hardest part is gonna be the first floor, okay? Because we have firewalls there, okay, there's no way of getting up through it unless we cut the firewalls out. On the second floor, everything's accessible, okay? So because of the attic space that was up there. So that will go very quickly. The one that's gonna take time is downstairs, because we have, this is where the cost will,
Exceed our
there is-
expectations.
because the firewalls that you have to take down on the first floor, okay, the contractor is going to have to do repairs after they take down that ductwork, okay? So, but yes, in a year, less than a year's time, we should be able to get that. I'm predicting anywhere somewhere in the 6-month period, you know?
Another clarification point, have we approved that we're gonna do the entire project at one time? Has that been voted on?
We just did.
We just did. That's exactly what it's all
Oh,
about.
I thought you said just, so that's been approved.
That's the bottom line, it's great.
Okay.
David,
For procedure, we have to bring this up, we should be bringing this up at the operations committee for
Let's be right about
voting
that.
as well on Tuesday.
Well, I will be bringing the budget on Tuesday to review with the committee
On Tuesday, yeah.
on Tuesday, yes.
I'm asking you if procedurally we should do that. or
I
not.
think that the changes that we're making really are to one line item.
Right.
This budget is approved, you're talking one line item and you're reducing it.
I'm not asking that, I'm asking do we have to present this?
Well, it's going to be presented,
Yeah,
but it is my intention to sign it.
Okay, I'm asking, I'm just
Okay.
asking for whatever. we
I
have to
don't
do.
know what the value would be of further rationating over this.
Should this also go through,
If you had, no, this is important. If you have an issue here, you need to raise it.
I'm asking you.
Now, I intend with the changes that we've discussed today and voted on,
I think they'll get the same result. And
Yeah.
I'm asking procedurally, do you think that we should do that at the operation?
well, good luck and, you're gonna have a lot of explaining to do. I have no fundamental objection, but I have every intention of signing that budget based on the vote taken here today.
You've answered my question.
that's it.
okay, with everything that's going on, are we gonna have executive board tomorrow?
No,
Shouldn't this be?
There's
that was
nothing-
already canceled.
Yeah.
That was
No,
already,
we haven't given notification yet, we're waiting for you guys to decide.
What is it you would expect the executive board to do here,
It's a done deal.
right? They're totally, you know, I'm not dreaming that they might watch these videos, but they're totally unacquainted with the issues. I don't see the point. I don't see us having a delegate assembly. I haven't heard back from Eva on that.
I did speak to Laura Coffey on that, and you can have the delegate assembly in the party room, but not the theater.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to use the theater for any reason whatsoever, according to the latest order as it stands right now for Palm Beach County.
Monica, what's the capacity of that room, party room? 400
and something.
No, I mean,
That's-
Oh, the party.
The party
room.
With social distancing, what is
Well,
it?
It's maybe
Well,
half of
that's-
that, so.
that
Would
we're
be
looking at two-
at 50%
Yeah, it's
capacity
really gonna
of
do
the
something,
building.
so 200.
Well,
You're not gonna get a quorum this time.
can I,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're not gonna get a
Of course
quorum.
not.
there's 33 tables in the front room, and if you have to social distance on a table that holds 8 people, you're gonna put 3 people on a table to be basically 6 feet apart,
About 100.
okay? So you're looking at 100 people in the front. Anybody that sits in the back, they're not gonna be able to hear what's going on.
Not doable.
Well,
It doesn't, it's,
you can also move tables onto the dance floor.
I wouldn't.
Whoa,
No. We just had that floor redone.
you're gonna scrape up that, Micronesian teak wood floor? Give me a break. No, you
Let's
can't.
let's get this executive board issue off and go.
I'm of a mind, but we'll hear from all the officers, I'm of a mind to cancel it.
I
thought it was good.
I have no knowledge of anything that I know that needs to be presented.
No, you're right.
All right, so we'll,
Just for me.
we'll
I
make
don't
that
know
an
anybody else.
agenda item when we're done with this lovely project. Yes, Dan?
I'd just like to, add something. I'd like to have just a group of people, a certain group that I could deal with, okay, with the engineering of this, you know?
All right, that's gonna be Dominic.
One, it'll be easy for me to explain, and then they can explain to the rest of the group, and I would like, so that we're all working together.
And I
This is a major
agree.
project, just like we did the electrical, I think it's important, you know?
I agree that I made it too big, so maybe Dominic and Donald And maybe the money guy, you wanna be in on that?
When is that?
Is that okay?
Look,
Who else?
I think, to tell you the truth, Fossil Dave, and I don't mind my guy, okay?
Who?
And Don, there's these five, 1, 2, 3, 4, and
Fine.
okay?
Let the record so show, just for
What's that?
the record. Who are you, it's
So
Donald,
Dom,
Dominic,
Dom,
Fausto,
Fausto,
And David.
David,
David, and Ed.
and Ed.
You okay with that?
Yes.
Alright. We need to keep an eye on the money, always.
No, I think it's just for me, it's like I do with some other groups over there, it's good because I could translate to them and they could translate back to the rest of the board. It's a lot easier,
Smaller group.
you know, and I don't wanna be caught, it's always, they're trying to catch on something, I don't wanna be caught.
Yeah, that's the nature of the game around here. The gotcha syndrome, yes, Ed?
Since we've now approved a multi-million-dollar project, if I'm not mistaken, and you said you've gotten a lot of calls, are you gonna get any money back? Which I get those calls too. I don't know if this is the place to address it, but I get a lot of calls, and one especially, that your proposal in your budget, just to get samples for chairs for the party room, is a stall that's been promised for years. So since we've taken up multi-million dollars, I'd like to bring up the fact that that is a small item that should be included in the budget. That, what's the sense of making it nice and cool with people carrying pillows all the time? And you have a good amount of people using the party room. I think it's been long enough delayed, and I don't think it's a major chore to pick a chair.
Ed, your issue is good, but it's really for the operations committee,
Well, I
right?
could bring it up, but I thought that this has been brought up, I'm new here, but I thought I'd been told by a very reliable source that this has been a promise for years.
It's been this is the second year that was in the budget, yes, you're
But you only,
absolutely correct.
you budgeted,
It
you
wasn't
didn't
the
budget for
purchase of
chairs,
the
you budgeted for
chairs.
samples.
That is correct.
It can't be that hard of a job to
Right.
pick a chair.
This is good information gathering, but this has to go to operations.
Okay, fine, I just
So-
asked the question.
Maybe Miss Eva can,
I've been researching it on our side, cause it's over, you know, for different types of chairs, okay? We're bringing it up again, you know, if you like, on the operations.
right?
I've been instructed to go looking into the chairs, so I remember it was questioned that there would be a charge on the chair to look at. I've already basically.
It's only $500.
And I can tell you that we could get them, we could get free samples, okay, from some of the
Oh,
manufacturers that
I'm
we
sure
bought
you
from,
can.
okay?
We
So-
always had free samples in the
Yes,
past.
yes, yes,
I
with the
remember-
lounge chairs.
Yeah, you had them laid out in the room and
But Dan, I'm not talking about samples, I'm talking about the chair.
That's something has to come up in the,
Well,
but I'll get the prices
I-
together.
As I
so-
say, I'm new, but yourselves and Eva could have brought it up for this budget, and it go to the operations committee.
Well, it really wouldn't make any sense to purchase all those new chairs until all the air conditioning work is done.
Well, that's
So
why-
we could put that purchase in the following year budget.
Well, Dan.
All right,
I asked-
look,
all right, I
can we
just
move on
asked
to
Dan.
this is for the
Good,
operations
let's
committee.
go on.
Donald, what?
I was about to say, may I suggest that we not make a habit of discussing operations business outside of the operations committee? It's not
Yeah,
fair to the other
Of
committees.
course. Let's bring this up, and maybe you'll have more information at the operations committee meeting. All right, we got anything else for Dan and Monica? So I'm going.
How come they didn't bring those great sandwiches?
Oh, I was about to say, those are good
Well,
sandwiches.
all right,
That's yours.
Dan, Monica, thank you
Yes, sir.
very much.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Yeah. We don't really have a written
No,
agenda,
that's fine.
so it's gonna be a little ad hoc. The next thing I'd like to bring up is the admin and, Bob's recommendation, which I'm gonna let him speak to.
Okay,
As you are certainly aware, hopefully you've all read the resume. I have talked to this lady. She's bright, she's articulate, her background, I think, is immaculate. I think she could do a lot better salary-wise, but she has volunteered. My only concern is, A, non-resident, non-owner. You know, there's no requirement, and I understand that. And B, to be blunt, is the significant other of an officer of Hugo. Those are the only two concerns that I might have. Finally, I would say I'd love to have an admin. I need an admin
yes.
and Bob's essentially doing that job. And, it's not really what he signed on for. Fausto.
Could we,
Name's Kathy, by the way.
could we accept her as an independent contractor?
What's the legal implication?
As an independent contractor, no holidays, no overtime pay, no nothing, this is a flat pay?
That has been taken out.
What's been taken out?
When we had the last discussion about the admin pay, it would be 15, maximum of 15 hours an hour,
Right?
and 20 or 24 hours, what's 4 hours times 5, right? Maximum of 20 hours per week with no benefits.
With no benefits. Yeah, because that's essentially a part-time.
Closed on a holiday, there's no payback, right?
He's just looking for something to do.
But she gets a 1099 rather than we become responsible for any other finances.
We would reduce our accounting costs just on.
Right.
The 1099, you're gonna have to have insurance, she's gonna have to provide an insurance contract.
Oh,
Right.
is that gonna be okay?
I would
I don't
check
see a
with
problem
Tony
with
about
that.
that
I'd have to
before.
call
Have you all read the resume? I mean, this woman, I think, is eminently qualified. I think she should get a job with the school board in a minute.
But she's only looking for a part-time job.
I understand.
And this.
All right. So, with all that on the table, would someone like to make a motion pro or con?
Make a motion to accept, let's get this on the table.
All right, and you have a second? Okay, Stuart, second the motion. Any further discussion on Kathy, whose resume you have all read? Yes, David.
I think we are opening ourselves up for a lot of criticism by doing this.
I
Not
agree.
talking about the qualifications whatsoever. It's the same thing when another person's wife wanted to work here, and we did it for the same reason, just because of that confrontational, well, it was a wife, this time it's not a wife, I understand that, but it's the same category.
These are two issues I brought up. I think we will be open to criticism.
And I'm not talking about the qualifications of the person at all.
Agreed. Agreed. If this was the solution that was desired, I would go across the street to Robert Half and hire a day worker with the requisite skills. Right? And that would eliminate what I see as potential critical baggage. Right? Okay, any other comments on this? Yes, Ed?
I know what the policy has been, and I agree, no matter what we do, we're gonna be criticized. But I would recommend that first, and I think a announcement or a requirement be put into
Advertisement.
in the Yuko Reporter that we need a volunteer for the administrative assistant of the president. And see if we get a volunteer. That's one. Pending, if we don't, put an ad in at $15 an hour.
What, Craigslist?
No, right, you could put
Oh, our
it,
paper,
yeah,
okay.
or next door. Many people are reading that blog right now next door. And if we don't get any candidates, fine. If we do get candidates, then you have the opportunity to pick the most qualified candidate. I think that way you may clear up the exposure.
But that again opens the door to a non-resident.
Oh,
you
that's
know.
another issue. Yes, that's another issue.
In other words, do you want someone in that job with skin in the game? Because like I say, if that is not desired, I could send John Gregg across the street, get the same people who run our election. Right?
I wasn't, I'm
It'll be
sorry.
more money, it'll be a lot more money, right?
I wasn't really addressing the non-resident issue.
It's not a requirement, but we've always had a resident in that position. I think people would criticize us vigorously. Why not take this out of Hyde by our people? Why not offer it to our residents? Right?
That's what I'm saying. You
Well,
want to offer,
she's a resident, she's just not an owner.
well,
Yeah.
you could solve that whole
At the
problem by
moment,
saying,
yeah.
I do.
I-
And Fausto could do the service.
That's right.
He won't charge him one
Or
more
David.
$20.
Hey, you marry her, it's all over.
Right.
Fausto, you charge him $1.50 or you do it for nothing?
David and I will share. He'll do the first part and I'll do the second part. So
That's
we
an
each
idea,
get
and we
$10.
can take photos of that and put it into the Palm Beach Post.
I still think we're opening ourselves up.
Yes.
I agree.
I agree too.
All right, any further discussion on this? All right, who seconded this?
Stu.
Stu, all right, so why don't we call the vote? This is, to hire Kathy Fernstrom as the administrative assistant.
David,
No.
Ed Grossman,
No.
Dominic,
No.
Stewart,
Yes.
Fausto,
No.
David,
Now,
Mary?
No.
Thank you. And I did not vote. One,
Well, you recuse yourself.
I can't vote on this. Okay?
this was nothing personal whatsoever.
Who's the
No,
one that made the motion?
Hey,
absolutely not. I spent close to a half hour talking to Kathy. She's very nice. I would love to have someone equivalent
That's okay.
in that job. All right, moving right along. And we have no agenda, so I think the CAM has a few items for us. Yes?
Yes, after you guys just ate a big steak dinner, I feel like I'm bringing you a White Castle cheeseburger, but, well, two in this case.
What are you gonna do first? Fine line?
Let's do fine line, sure, why not?
Okay.
All right, guys, I'm bringing you a proposal for striping of the roadways. This is from Fine Line Striping. The total cost is $6,445. This proposal was approved by the infrastructure committee, and I bring it to the officers for their review.
All right.
motion to accept.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
What was the motion?
To accept it.
To accept the striping project?
$6,445.
Right.
We're in discussion now?
You have one of these for the minutes?
He does, and we have extras.
All right, you want to call it?
Well, since we're in discussion, just let me update the officers real quick on what the job is.
Oh, okay.
You guys were all at the meeting, so you know what we're doing here. I just wanna let you know that this is probably the second to last phase, in striping. I will be bringing another proposal soon for the main roads.
Will we be doing thermoplastic with glass beads?
Glad you discussed, I'm glad you brought that up, Dave. And it bears repeating. Years ago, there was a great debate over the efficacy of thermoplastic versus plain old.
Fausto did all the research, it was
yeah,
excellent work.
And its cost effectiveness is really the argument.
Right.
The solution, the compromise we came to some years ago was we would use thermoplastic only on the ladder crosswalks and the stop bars. Things where visibility and durability are an issue. Everything else, plain old DOT paint. So, it's been working okay for now, so. The other thing I wanted to bring up, Fausto brought up an issue of some of the crosswalks. I think what we're gonna do is put on all the ladder crosswalks, those pedestrian, stop for pedestrian signs. Like the ones we put up at Four
Yeah.
Corners. I have noticed that, especially on North Drive.
On North Drive, I got a couple of complaints from people that were walking from Stratford.
Yeah.
There's a crosswalk over there, and people are actually speeding up while somebody's walking with a cane
Yeah.
or a walker, and they have to try to jog or dart away
They
from the
wanna
car.
beat them to
They
it.
wanna beat them to the crosswalk. So I brought it to Donald's
Yeah,
attention.
no, I sat out there, it's
And,
real.
and, I mean,
rough.
at night, they go through 45, 50 miles an hour through there.
Oh my God.
It'll add a few $100s to the work, and, as it happens, I have Jose on doing signage right now. He's been going around straightening posts and painting and just fixing them up. Because I just woke up one morning and said, holy crap, everything's at a 45-degree angle, so
Right.
we'll make that part of it.
That's a main crosswalk from people from Stratford that are going either to the Temple,
Yeah.
to Hastings, or
I'm gonna try
people
to-
that are walking.
I'm gonna try to do them all.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that was where I got the calls from.
Once again, I would say, raise the rate.
back in.
Do what?
Put in
But you
a,
can't put
speed
speed
table.
Tables.
Put a speed table where the crosswalk is. You're not gonna have that issue. Unless they wanna run over and wreck their car.
If they're aiming for people with a cane and could you imagine putting a speed bump? They're gonna speed up so they can hit them in the air.
I got news for you, just the amount of people that are walking in the street these days, I'm worried about them tripping on the speed bump.
Oh, boy. You know, this used to be a big joke when the New York State, point system came out. I remember the kids used to joke, how many points do you get for pregnant nun, blah, blah, blah. It was sickening.
Death race 2000.
Really sickening, yeah.
Will,
Dumb.
will this affect the sheriff?
But,
The sheriff may not come in to patrol the perimeter road if we have speed bumps.
To put in the speed bumps, there have to be a civil engineering study, a
That's
traffic
correct.
study.
Right.
We almost certainly would have to go through the county and.
we had to,
It's not an easy
in
thing.
order to get an agreement, I remember this, with BBSO, we had to have a study made that the ring road entrance and exits were all to code. I mean, they made us move the stop sign, so it was 2 feet, I remember this, going through this with PBSO. So, you're right, I don't know what those speed tables, they might not come in.
Listen,
I got a question.
Yeah.
All right. Does the county not have studies on all of this
No,
ahead of time?
no.
I mean, if one community does it, it should be able to just say, hey, this community wants to do the same
Bob,
thing.
not every community has this agreement that we have with PBSO, which is
That's right.
saving us a ton of bucks, all right? If you go over to Cypress Lakes, they don't have the community, they don't have that agreement, and they have to pay private staff to monitor traffic.
Are they unincorporated land as we are?
Yeah, they are, and what they do is they put these guys out there with radar guns, and they have their own ticket system, and there's a finding committee, and it goes on and on and on. We just cut out the middleman and put the county in charge. It's saving us a ton of bucks.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's not a day, there's not a week that goes by that I don't get an email or a call from a concerned unit owner saying, Donald, usually put a stop sign here. Somebody ran through it. Donald, put a speed bump there.
All right.
My answer is always the same. You don't tinker with something that's been designed by an engineer.
So anything else on the striping?
Who made the motion?
I did.
Dominic second.
Ed, you want to bring your?
That has a passed?
Look, Ed has an issue with it, and my only criticism was it wasn't run in front of the officers. I think it's a no-brainer. It's free money. Ed, why don't you explain what you want.
Okay. I've been informed that we're getting 0 interest on millions of dollars in our account, at Seacrest, which moves our money around. That has depleted an asset of what we used to get.
Has everybody seen this piece of paper from Citibank?
Okay.
Did we get a vote on
We
striking?
Wait a minute, can we get this vote done first?
We didn't vote on what?
Striking.
On
Strike it.
striping.
We have not done a vote.
You know, there's so much gibberish. Okay, go ahead.
David Israel,
Yes.
Ed Grossman,
Yes.
Dominic,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Fausto,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Doctor, no. Surprise me.
Ah,
All right, go ahead.
All right, first of all,
Excuse me, before we do that, can we go to Donald's second proposal here?
Yeah, can we get
Yeah, let's
this?
just stick to one genre.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, sorry, Ed. I got this is paving repairs. Again, this proposal has been reviewed and approved by the Bids Infrastructure Committee. The total price is $11,587. There was an option here for these root barrier, for vinyl barrier. The committee's recommendation is that this requires further study. Sorry, that the root barriers require further study, and one of the committee members has volunteered to take that up as a project.
Oh,
So, perhaps to get some samples of the material, have it installed, and do a test bed.
yeah, this BioGuard thing seems rather exotic.
It does.
That's not what I really ever had in mind. Where you have a tree that's destroying, I had in mind a piece of heavy plastic, 3 feet long and however deep, just down there, right at a little below grade, so when that root tries to come through again, it has to work a lot harder. It's tricky. If there's water, if that root is going for water, it's gonna find a way,
Yeah.
right? This BioGuard though is very exotic. I don't know if you read
It's
it.
impregnated with some sort of chemical that
Yeah.
roots are scared of apparently, so, I think this needs to marinate a little more, and maybe that's another solution.
Someone has agreed to look into
Yeah,
this?
Judy Amsler,
Who's gonna do that?
Judy Amsler.
Oh, good, okay.
We used the Bob Marshall, doctrine, she brought it up, I said,
Who recommends does, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the proposal from Atlantic Southern Paving in the amount of $11,587.
For the patching, right?
Yes, seconded by Dave.
Seconded by David. Okay, any further discussion? It's a very nice write-up, by the way. Very complete. All right,
Anything?
any further discussion?
Zoe, John, David,
Yes, which David?
yes.
Dominic,
yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Fausto,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
I'm gonna say no, just to be a doctor, no.
Sorry. I never do that, just to say no.
All right. Cam, you got anything else?
no, that's all I got, potholes will be filled.
All right, why don't we go back to Ed and his proposal to bring us some free money? Go ahead, Ed.
Okay. Just so everybody knows, at one point in time, where it wasn't a large, interest rate, we did get money on our sweep accounts. And I believe everybody knows we're limited to $250,000 on any account that's insured by the FDIC. I don't know if everybody's aware, I'm gonna expand on that. The fact
That
that-
went up a little. That go up.
Oh, and in fact, I even checked to see if there's a variance for commercial accounts, because we're not the only ones facing that, as you could see when I spoke to, WPRF. Okay. I was told originally that we're getting a small percentage, I recently was told we're getting nothing. I feel that it's a tremendous amount of money, and I think I brought it up at one of the staff meetings that we should get money, one way or another, either use the money when we can or whatever. So in that light, I did a search, and many banks are giving a bonus instead of toasters to open up an account. The most aggressive bank that I found so far is Citibank across the street. Their maximum, which is nice, is if you put in, and it graduates, if you put in 200,000, you get 2,000 for 2 months. If you check it out, that equates to 6%. 2,000 is better than nothing. However, it's my intent, many other banks are doing the same thing, not necessarily giving 2,700, 500, you don't have to put in 200,000. If we open accounts, which takes some work, I can tell you this, under the current situation, it takes at least an hour for one person to open an account, because the questions you get asked today are not like they were years ago when you went in.
Patriot Act.
Right. So,
Follow the money.
so in, having said that, I went across the street to Citibank, I spoke to Maritza, who is the local, manager of Citibank, and I proposed, and while David didn't approve it, I told him I was doing it, to open an account at Citibank and earn $2,000. The whole story is, you get 2,000 for 2 months, you have to leave 5,000 in there for another month or two, and at the end, you'll get the money. And if you do that with enough banks, I think we could earn $25,000.
So, what you're saying is, put it in for 2 months and a day and move it to another bank,
If necessary.
so
If
that you
ne-
get another 2,000.
Well, I wish I could get all 2,000s. I found about 5 or 6 other banks right now
Yeah.
that pay 700.
Oh,
Okay, but you don't have to put in 200,000. Each bank has, in fact, I visited personally Citicorp, Chase Manhattan yesterday, just to see, because I saw they were paying 2,000, but they weren't. The changes. This is a promotion. It's not gonna be there forever. I mentioned it to a few people. And in fact, at the WPRF meeting, I went over to Monica and told her she wants to, she can get the $2,000 for WPRF. I mentioned this to one of the other residents here, and they're doing it, maybe not up to 200,000. You just have to be a new customer. It's like the old year. Now, when I did that, unlike some of the other banks, Maritza told me that if she gets one officer can open the account. And I hadn't had a chance because they didn't approve it up until the day before yesterday. If we get everybody else's who's gonna be a signature, their license, a copy of their, driver's license, she'll put in motion, you don't have to go there, getting you on the signature. Unlike BB&T, which I'm still not on, and unlike Seacrest, which I'm not on. Quite frankly, I didn't ask for a credit card, I didn't ask for a debit card, I asked for the account. Unbeknownst to me, she never mentioned that you automatically get a debit card. Okay, so, maybe I should have asked that, it was never a thought in my mind. I didn't bring it all to you all because I felt it's part of finance, but that's a program that I intend to continue unless they change, and hopefully it will. The other thing which I intend is that you can get money market money, maybe only 1%. We're getting nothing on the sweep account. And my
I
feeling.
just want to remind everyone who's been here a while that Dorothy Tetra was treasurer. She went through a lot of work, page after page of banks. And we played this game. I mean, we moved money to some bank in Washington that was paying close to 13% at the time. But somebody's got to manage this. Now, I will say, I was concerned about the debit card. You may or may not be aware, you know, in the 718 Corporation, it's forbidden by law to have a debit card. And based on that, I didn't feel it was wise for you to go. And he has explained, he didn't ask for it. You know, this is something they toss out at, so I cut it up. So we don't have the debit card. We have a credit card. It's worked out very well for us. But somebody's got to manage this, Ed. That's the big thing.
Well, it'll be managed. I don't take what I don't think I can handle, and I think that we could use the money, okay? I have no objection of anybody else doing the research, and if you find an institution, I would welcome it, okay? There are certain websites that list all that stuff, and each website may not have the same banks. And it comes on and off. It says for the month of September. That means at the end of September, it may not be available. The other thing,
Look, my only concern,
yeah,
I'm a firm believer, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Is there any hidden trap doors in here?
everything is spelled out. The trapdoor is that you can't take the money out on the 61st. You know, okay, you have to leave $5,000.
All right.
And that's, I think, for another 30, 60 days, and then you get, every bank spells out what they do. The other part that I feel is important is when you have money in the sweep account, it's a lot of extra bookkeeping, and if we're not earning anything on it, I can earn something on a government-backed security that's almost as liquid, maybe 30 days, maybe less. So why have an account that earns nothing, that takes extra bank, bookkeeping, when instead of being guaranteed by the FDIC, it's guaranteed by the government? And I don't know if any of you know, the fact that it's guaranteed and the bank goes bankrupt, you may wait 3, 6, or 9 months before you get the money. It's not as liquid as you think.
I remember when Hamilton Bank went down. Do you remember that bank? It was over on Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. Boy, that really was a shock to a lot of people in here. They waited forever for their money.
Well, whereas with a government security, you get it within 2 days. Now, we don't have to be liquid for everything, but that's the program that I intend to pursue. The other thing, which has nothing, and if you want to vote on it, it's fine with me. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is I've been asking for volunteers, and I called up Mary Patrick, and I found out what her problem was about not coming in.
She answered the phone?
I said,
Yes, I answered the phone.
okay. And I feel I've solved the problem. I told Mary Patrick, you will work in my office, I have no problem. She's agreed to help me. Okay, and so it's an officer, we need a hand. The only thing that hasn't happened is the movement of the file cabinets, Donald, because I need the room. Okay?
You want to put a little desk in there?
No, I'm gonna change the desktop, I told you.
Oh, okay.
And have more working space. It's a working office.
Thought Hose B was gonna do that.
He has it on his list. I have him on a couple of jobs right now, so as soon as he's done, we'll get to that.
All right.
And I welcome anybody if they want to help, at least in finding these institutions. It's a job and a half. In other words, anybody can go on the computer and look for it. And if you're with a major brokerage firm, they may give it to you. Okay, so that is my current program, and if interest rate changes, we move it from one place to the other. Now, there are online banks. I've checked them, but they're not that aggressive, although Ally Bank advertises like crazy. I'd like to, when I started, to physically go to a few of the banks around here physically, and if they're paying like 1% on their money market, I would move into those banks, at least it's 1%.
Look, as I said to you, I wrote you an email. I said, it looks interesting. Include your officers, get a vote on this.
I have-
But look out for trapdoors. Look out for major penalties if you take one step wrong. You know, these banks are not in this for their health, right? And usually there's some fine print on these offers that nobody reads. It's my only concern. Fausto, you have something?
Yeah, I have, since we're a non-for-profit,
Yeah,
and we are looking at a very minimal amount of interest,
yeah.
okay? Why would we want the extra, having to pay taxes on a minimal amount that may not be worthwhile? Is the bookkeeping and paying all that taxes on a minimal amount worth it?
Well, the first question is, do we have enough income to pay taxes? Because you have the ability to apply expenses, just like you would if you were in business for yourself. You wouldn't take $1 million worth of income and say, I'm not gonna take the expense of this or the expense of that. Don't forget, we can allocate like any other business. Every function we do in here should be allocated. The electric, the maintenance, the cleaning of the office. That's an income producing entity, and it's mechanically set up. That's one. Two, it's a lot better than the bookkeeping on the sweep accounts. A lot better than the bookkeeping on the sweep accounts. And while we're not for profit, I don't want you to be a yes for loss. So every penny counts. You start with a nickel, it becomes a dime. And who's to say the interest rate won't change? And if you're set up, you can take advantage of it. If you're not set up, as I say, it takes a long time. Now, on this account, as I'm prefacing this is since March, I'm not a signature on any of the accounts because basically they all want you to come to the office. Now, not every bank has it open, BB&T doesn't, Seacrest doesn't. It so happens that Citicorp across the street is open and functioning. And they're right across the street.
Wells Fargo is open.
Well, I haven't checked it. I haven't
I
checked
mean, I
it.
don't know if they're all having this program, I'm just saying.
I don't know, but I'm saying the two banks that we're currently using are not physically open.
BB&T
Right.
and
It's by
Seacoast.
appointment only. If you call Andre,
I got
they will
you.
let you in.
I got
I
you.
gotta tell you something. I called Andre a long time ago. And he said, what's your hurry? It took me a while. I spoke to Andre. I got emails going back and forth. Now, I also went to Seacrest, and they gave everybody here, as I understand it, documents that they could have signed. I know I filled mine out when I spoke to them. Although I spoke to Steve Zimmers, is not the guy who handles our account. He said I'm the only one who actually put in their papers. And I feel I should be a signature. And I haven't promoted it because there's other things. The answer is you don't run a business to lose money. And we're not for profit, but we have several businesses. So yes, everything contributes.
My understanding is, of course, things are different now, I appreciate that. Andre always came over here. We have a lot of money in that bank. He came over here, we gave him our license, he filled out all the paperwork, and all that was handled right here in this room.
I could tell you, I could show you.
He won't do it.
All I was telling you is what he said. What he said is I have access to the online account, which I have on both of them. But we're moving astray. I think the thing is, this is a matter of earning money. I don't get paid, so whatever we earn is additional funds.
Would anyone like, I think I understand, would anyone like to make a motion on this? All right. No, I'm gonna make, or would you like to make a motion?
Well, my question is, why does the motion have to be made? According to the bylaws, it doesn't.
Listen, I hear you. This is the people's money.
I understand it, and I'm very concerned about
You
it.
have to be very careful about making unilateral decisions. You need to get your officers on board here.
Well, I'm here and I explained it, and no one wants to make a motion to earn money?
No motion, pro or con? I mean, go, David.
I don't, I understand the prep, why not take advantage of it? I'm not arguing that at all, but why should we not take advantage of that type of a promotion?
Well, that doesn't sound like a motion. Are you saying a motion is not required? We're informed and.
No, I think we need a motion. I know when we went to Sea Coast, not Sea Crest,
Right,
it was brought before here.
Of course.
And a motion was done, but I can also tell you that I can probably get in touch with Andre and, or, I've always found him very workable. I
Me
can't
too.
believe that he won't
That has
come
not,
up.
I
used
appreciate
to
that.
come here every year.
But,
But that's not what we're talking about here.
No,
I'll
I
make a
understand.
motion to accept.
To accept the
second.
program? Do we have a second?
I second it.
Stewart seconds. Is there any further discussion? I think Ed has explained this eminently well. Is there any further discussion on this?
Yes.
Go
It
ahead.
makes me nervous to have money being shifted left and right, all right?
Well,
The
I hear,
possibilities of it disappearing
I hear what you're saying.
can happen.
I think these monies are
I'm
insured.
not saying that you would do that.
I'm not even a signature.
I'm not saying that you would do that, but it would just make, to me, it seems like it would make things more difficult to keep track of.
Not if you.
The money is sitting at, part of it's at what, Secrets has some, and then who else has some?
No, but money for other banks.
Seacoast.
Okay.
You got to.
Now you're talking about taking money out of one place and then start putting it into another. To me, that's just like when they had 2,000 different accounts separately for each line item in the budget. I thought that was ridiculous.
Well, I appreciate your uninformed opinion.
I don't remember. All right, Stewart.
First of all, it's not a lot of money that he's talking about shifting over to the bank. It's a one account, easy to monitor, see how it works out. If it works out to our advantage, which obviously it looks like they want our money to pay and they're gonna pay for it. So 2,000 here and 2,000 there pays for the rental of a machine and repair of equipment and so on. In other words, if you're getting something and it's not a lot of money and and you can monitor it, whereas we're not shifting money to 5 or 7 or 8 banks all at once, where it becomes more confusing and complicated. I can't see why we.
That's what I said. I said it needs to be monitored.
By the way, we're not moving 2,000, we're moving 200,000.
You're
We're
getting-
earning 2,000.
Yeah. All right, David.
My only concern, and this is nothing to do personally, is that I don't want this to get to the state that it's as my father would say, a squirrel cage situation. Something happens to Mr. Grossman, it's gotta be easily funneled to the next person so that these timelines can be met.
Can we not affect that through the kid?
I don't know,
Chris-
I don't care how it's done,
That's
I
not
don't
the-
want that squirrel
Excuse
cage
me,
to be
excuse me.
happen over us.
No, go ahead.
Excuse me. Christopher's function is bookkeeping.
I understand.
Okay. The simplest thing to do is to move it into a government security. There's no trace to follow, no bunch of banks and it's liquid.
But what are you getting off that?
Well, we're getting more than we're getting on the sweep account.
I know, I have no problem with this new account that you're gonna get the bonus in. But, you know, you're saying it has to be there for
2 months.
60 days plus 5,000. Well, that's great, I have no problem with that. But, and what happens if something happens to you that you physically are?
Well,
You know what I'm saying, that's my point. I don't
I
want
think
it,
it's a very good
I
question.
don't want a squirrel cage that no one can get to it if you're not available.
I think it's a good question, and when it's set up, it will be set up with an audit trail.
But
And
that's
we'll have
fine.
where every bank is, what's in it. And by the way, we will get, if it's in bank A, B, and C, and D, it will be set up on the books of account. You'll get a bank statement every month, so it's clear. It's a good question, and I would want it too.
Exactly.
We had, look, we had, as I said, something equally as complex, and we kept good track of it. Darby Tetro had CDs scattered all over the country.
There's nothing wrong with that, it's a great idea.
All right.
If you're getting the interest, why not get the interest?
Donald,
Look, if this was a year ago, I think this would be a much easier decision to make. Now we're all sitting around in a room by ourselves with masks on, and we can't get the technician to get the camera going because he's quarantined, I just found out. We're kind of in a jumpy place right now.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, an alert could come out tomorrow and we're all quarantined and we're back in the house.
sure,
Um,
could happen.
The idea of the sweeps account was pretty much is on remote control. And I hear it, we're not getting the money, but what I'm worried about is tomorrow nobody's here, and who's.
That's why you have records, Donald.
I understand that,
That's why
but a
you
human
have-
being has to drive a record, and we're all sitting around with masks on right now.
Well,
We're in very uncertain time, I'm not just, I'm a little uneasy about picking up something, which we've done before, it's totally doable, I do it at church. But maybe not now because of all this nonsense that's going on.
Any other input on this?
I thought we're voting.
How about a
Well,
clear
we're discussing. We're
motion,
discussing.
because I don't even have a clear motion here.
We
Well,
have
I
a
got
There was a
motion.
motion, and it's been voted on,
He-
I made a motion to accept.
and it was seconded.
And it was seconded. We're in discussion.
Okay, all I heard was I make a motion.
No.
I made a motion to accept Mr. Grossman's proposal,
The Citibank proposal.
Citibank proposal. I did not say that, you were correct, Bob, I did not say Citibank proposal.
And Stuart seconded this, yes.
That's correct.
Is there an NTE on how many funds will be moved?
Say again?
Is there an NTE on how much dollars?
Not
will
to
be-
exceed?
Yeah,
Oh. I think it was, what, 200K? but-
200K.
put in the motion.
Maybe it should be included in the motion.
There should be some about money in the motion.
Not to exceed
All it says is
200K.
accept
Would you agree to that
proposal.
modification?
But you're not getting anything, you can't get anything, insured over 250,000.
Right.
And we're not allowed to put it into something that's not insured. Am I correct or incorrect about that?
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
But he's
I
recommending.
don't think that's a necessary part of the.
I do.
I think it's,
Well, we don't want someone.
Put it into 250,000.
Well, this is what I have right now, to accept Ed Grossman's proposal. Now, he could be proposing marriage, he could be proposing to go out and take a dump in the backyard.
I said city court proposal, bonus program,
it's
Okay.
program.
promotion program, I beg your
City
pardon.
court, what?
You would object to putting in there not to exceed 200K?
No, that's
You
fine.
don't like that?
I don't think it's necessary, but if everybody feels comfortable with it, I have no problem with it.
All right. So let's
If you're
make the
gonna do that,
motion.
If you're gonna do it, you might as well make it 250,000, which is the legal limit, yeah.
Okay. So not to exceed $250,000 into the Citibank bonus program. Is that a fair description?
Well, I think it's not a good description, and I'll tell you why. If I wanna move $5 million into a government bond, we're gonna have to have a separate meeting and a motion.
Yes, I think so.
I don't think so.
I
don't
think
think-
absolutely right.
I don't
You
think.
just can't, you can't attack and move people's money without getting them on board.
Yeah, that's why you
All
come
right.
to this every.
Well, I think that we should expand the motion now.
Oh, perfect.